We are back with another Johnny Torch live broadcast here on The Only Way to Spend Your Saturday. We have a Torch News Roundup for you today, number 124 in the series, our 137th live broadcast altogether. So welcome in, everyone. Happy Valentine's Day, belatedly, of course. And I hope you all enjoyed your Valentine's Day. I spent my Valentine's Day, for the most part, working on The Adventures of Bullets Bourbon. Bullets Bourbon Private Eye, the comic, the cover of the latest issue you see before you right now. You can check out my website and the link in the description below. It'll take you there where you can find a free 3-page preview of the latest issue in question called One Bourbon, One Scotch, One Miller. We are eagerly awaiting the release of the final chapter of this story arc. It should be out, I am hoping, sometime in the spring, tentatively May, I'm thinking. Late April, early May. Late April because I'll probably get it to the printer around then, and usually what happens is they don't list it for the public for another couple of weeks. So what usually will happen is I will get a bunch of copies, and if you want one badly enough, and they'll be autographed, mind you, I will send one to you. The shipping will be free, but you will, of course, pay for the issue. And that's just my little way of rewarding those of you who are, really looking forward to the issue. So once again, check it out if you haven't yet, my comic series, The Adventures of Bullets Bourbon Private Eye. I always say I want to do a whole show talking about The Adventures of Bullets Bourbon Private Eye, but it's kind of difficult to know where to start, because it would be different if I had some viewers that actually asked questions and wanted to know how the series came about, where the series goes. It's a little difficult to do that, with no questions being involved. I have to write my own questions. That's kind of interesting. But anyway, also you can take a look in the link in the description below as well and find my Twitter page. I'm always there doing crazy things, getting into all kinds of shenanigans. And I was going to do another broadcast this past Wednesday, was it? I forget when it happened, but a lot of crazy stuff going on. A lot of crazy stuff going on with the, I don't know, the whole comics gate. Magic swatting that he endured, it's just terrible. And it's just a shameful thing. Shame on whoever did that and caused him to suffer through that problem. Peter Simeti, of course, is the salt of the earth. I've actually met him in person at the most recent con that I attended, which was the Granite State Comic Con. And that was, of course, after he'd been harassed by anti-comic skaters previously for his neutral stance, not even for siding with Comicsgate. Excuse me. But and he's had to endure this terrible harassment, and of course I wish him the best, and I do whatever I can to encourage him and encourage everyone to not only support him, support Alterna Comics, but also to, if you see anything suspicious online in Twitter or any other social media, alert him, alert the proper authorities, and see if we can get to the bottom of what's happened. And I wasn't watching when this incident took place, although I do watch most of his videos. Sometimes if he has a guest, I'm not as prone to watch it. But when he's talking about, promoting your comic and designing your comic, all very informative and I would say essential viewing for anyone who's even thinking about getting into the field. So be sure to check him out, and hopefully he'll return. I believe he's already said he'll return to making videos soon. But yeah, I've subscribed to Alterna Comics, the channel. Make sure you do that as well, and just support Peter, because he's clearly the only, and this is why he's feared. It's strange because you would think he'd be more lauded by the other people in comics and the anti-Comicsgate contingent, but he's the only one trying to find a model that will improve sales, save comic shops from closing, making comics affordable. He's done all of this. He's been working on all of this for several years and has gotten me very excited about the prospects. So he's in essence one of the few people who could potentially save comics. I believe a lot of Comicsgate personalities are trying as well, but Peter has the outline. He's got the plan where he's actually trying to put these things into practice, which will in fact, hopefully bring this medium back to its full strength, to its full power, its full potential. Okay, excuse me while I sip a little H2O. And feeling really dry today. I don't know if it's coming across on in the sound, but again, apologies if I have to have a lull in the speaking for a few moments. So there is where it sits. We also have the story about Vic Mignola, which again, I'm probably butchering his name. I'm not sure exactly how it's pronounced. I've heard a couple of different versions of it. He's been fired from the Funimation, I believe it's called. I don't have any notes for this because this is a sort of a last minute change of plan where I'm actually talking about this. I was going to do a broadcast talking about all of this back on Wednesday when this was sort of fresh news. But again, there's only sort of tepid charges against him of being too demonstrative to fans. He embraces fans without their consent, or kisses fans on the cheek, and other sort of demonstrations of affection. He's had some co-stars, his co-workers that have come out and also tried to paint some kind of a sinister picture. But I know him because I'm not really deep into anime. I've watched Dragon Ball Z back in the past as a teenager, but I haven't really kept up with it. And from what I understand, all I remember him from really was Star Trek Continues, which I even reviewed one of the episodes. I was intending on reviewing the whole series as a whole, but to be honest with you, I don't know. I didn't think that I could get too much. It was a very popular video. It was in my top 10. It might still be in my top 10 most popular. I didn't really think I could get too much out of reviewing the episodes. So I decided maybe I'll just do a whole overview of the whole show. I haven't done it yet, but again, a lot of my projects go by the wayside because I can only do live streams at the moment. I don't have the software to do, and it's my own fault. I've tried several different softwares that'll let me do edited videos, and none of them worked out for me. Obviously, I'd like to get them free if I can. I don't know, as I don't want to pay for something that doesn't work for me. Just like I've been using these free platforms, they don't work for me. So why would I pay for something and then be stuck with it for like 6 months or whatever? But to get back to the story, I digress. But again, it seems that Chris Mignola is a Christian, has been very vocal that he's a Christian, and that's the kind of people that they come after. They are going to become rabid if you. I'm talking about anti-Comicsgate, mind you. If you're popular and you try to oppose whatever views they have, if you're Christian, if you're Republican, and that is why I don't mind supporting Comicsgate, because that's basically all it is saying, look, we don't want politics involved in our media, in our enjoyment of these things like Star Wars, like comics, like anime. We don't need to be beat over the head with a certain agenda, a leftist agenda. And you see it all over the place in CW, DC shows, in comics, in Star Wars, where an agenda is being pushed. And you don't need to push an agenda. You need to make a fun and entertaining product. And that's the problem we're having. That's why a lot of people are pushing back and complaining about these things. But when you push back and complain about these things, you end up, you know, being a target of the ire of the SJWs, of the anti-Comicsgate militia that'll come after you without a moment's hesitation. So again, everyone out there that supports Peter Simeti, that supports, Comicsgate, just be wary. Just be wary because you never know what crazy person is going to, you know, try to accost you. As I said on Twitter, I mean, Ethan Van Sciver, he went to a shop that hosted him, and it was vandalized the next day. The quartering was assaulted in a bar after a convention appearance. Now, Peter Simeti is swatted. It's gone too far. The next thing that's going to happen is there's going to be a body, and then will people finally wake up and realize that there is real danger from this cultic us or them mentality that is the SJWs, the anti-comicsgate brigade. It's very dangerous. So if you are on the anti-comicsgate side, use some common sense. Don't inflame situations like what has been going on here in the past. And if you're Comicsgate, also, you don't want to inflame a tense situation, but be careful. Just be careful and, keep your wits about you because you never know what's going to happen. All right, kind of a somber beginning to the show, and I really didn't plan that. It just sort of all came out because this is something that's important to me. And you see these horror stories, every one of them have gotten death threats. I mean, your boy Zach, Ethan Van Sciver. I don't talk about Comicsgate a lot because I feel like a lot of people have done that. And I don't really want to hang my channel's hat on another Comicsgate guy, gonna take on Kathleen Kennedy and Captain Marvel, all that stuff I talk about, but I don't hang my hat on, another updater that's gonna just, give you basically the same talking points that we all know from all the others. So again, I stand with them, but I stand in my own lane. I do this my own way, the way I want to. And that's kind of how I've always done everything I've done. You have to basically, be your own individual. And that's what I've always believed. Okay, so like I said, let us move on here now. We are going to talk about, and as usual, like I said, I want to focus on the fun aspects. Maybe that's the reason why I don't get a lot of views. I don't talk about the doom and gloom half as much, but we're going to talk about some of the fun aspects here that are going on in pop culture. We're going to start with a story. This is something that I just found out the other day. I learned about this from, I'm going to give props to Andre the Black Nerd. I'm subscribed to him, of course, on YouTube. And this is pretty exciting. He's got a great channel, by the way. This is really exciting. Batman versus the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles animated movie is in the works. This sounds exciting. Sci-fi.com has announced the Batman versus Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie and the voice cast along with some first look images. All right, so let me take a look at this image first before I read the copy. This looks to me like it looks like 2000 era Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. That's arguably the best version of the show, which is, I think, one of the reasons why they're going with that look. I probably, in my heart of hearts, like the 80s version better. And, that's the original. That's the more goofy kind of 80s version of the Turtles. But this is probably the most accurate representation of the Turtles in animation, anyway, that we've had so far. Sort of the default, version. This version of Batman does not look like anything we've had in animation, although I would say Batgirl and Robin seem, at least to me, slightly reminiscent of the Batman cartoon. I think that was from the early 2000s as well. That was after Batman, the animated series, wrapped up, and they tried to move on with another incarnation. I wasn't too thrilled with it, to be totally honest with you. I'm not a big fan of the Batman. I think it has its fans. I didn't like it very much. It kind of was like a throwback, I think, to the Burton era, where things were kind of like more goofy and grotesque. See Gotham. Also looks like, but Batman looks like the classic version of the costume, which is something that I really like. This is sort of the old Hanna-Barbera looking Batman. And this is I think a good reason why this will work, because Batman has worked well in team-ups and live animation in the past, in crossovers. Remember Batman meets Scooby-Doo. So now we have Batman meets Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I think it'll work out pretty well. All right, let's take a look here at the story. Based on the 2015 Batman Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles comic miniseries by James Tyrion IV and Freddie Williams II. What is this, royalty? What's with the prefixes? I don't know. The animated adventure will see the heroes in a half-shell crossing paths with the Caped Crusader via a trans-dimensional portal. And while the heroes may butt heads at first, it looks like they will eventually team up and take on some of Batman's deadliest foes. All right, so they're not going after the Shredder and Krang. Looks like it's just going to be Batman's dangerous foes. I don't know. This is kind of tough because they come from a different Earth, I guess. That's kind of what DC does, though, don't they? The multiverse. Yeah, I guess it makes sense. All right, the cast. Let's see this. The movie, they spelled movie wrong, garbage tier. The movie stars Troy Baker, Last of Us, Batman Arkham Origins. So I guess he's played Batman in the past, as both Batman and the Joker. This is interesting. This is, I don't know why they do that nowadays, because I know, I grew up in the 80s when I was a kid, and animated series only had 4 voice actors at any given time, or maybe 5. Yeah, I think they would have like 3 men, 2 women, and they were expected to provide all the voices. It was like you had a hero voice, you had a villain voice, you had a matronly female voice, you had the young and chipper female voice, and then you had sort of the patronly adult male voice. And they were expected to sort of change their voices to suit different characters. You find that in He-Man, Masters of the Universe, Voltron, just basically G.I. Joe. Just basically pick any big animated property in the 80s, and they did this. I don't think they need to do that anymore, because it feels strange to me when you have the same actor voicing 2 characters. That's not to say that they can't do it. I mean, these guys are voice actors, they're professionals, they're this, they're that, but honestly, do you really want a guy playing both Batman and the Joker and trying to sound different in both roles? I don't know. Let's see. Darren Criss as Raphael, Kyle Mooney as Michelangelo, Baron Vaughn as Donatello, and Eric Bauza, Eric Bauza as from the Woody Woodpecker Show as Leonardo. I don't know about that. The Woody Woodpecker Show, I haven't seen that in a long time. I guess it's a new one. They joined Rachel Bloom as Batgirl, Tom Kenny as the Penguin, John DiMaggio as Mr. Freeze, Tara Strong as both Harley and Poison Ivy. Again, Tara Strong, we know she can handle it. She's done Harley Quinn a lot in the past. Carlos Alvarezqui as Bane, and Cass Anvar as Ra's al Ghul. So, what do you think about this? Is this exciting to you? I did not see the comic, so I don't know if this is going to be... I mean, I wouldn't know if it's largely based on the actual story, or if this is just inspired by that and it's going to be a completely different take. I don't know, but it's pretty exciting to me. I think it's going to be an interesting movie. And I don't know when it comes out. I think they said the spring, so we might not have long to wait. Okay, let's take a look at our next story. And let me see. I got so many images up here, so you're going to have to bear with me for a second. All right, let's see. Here we go. Live broadcast, folks. Live broadcast. This is what happens. All right, we got some interesting information here about the Aquaman franchise, so to speak, because it's more than just the sequel, but we do have confirmation that an Aquaman 2 sequel is in the works. Let's see. The studio has hired the first film's co-writer to pen the script. Multiple trades are reporting that David Leslie Johnson McGoldrick... Does that guy got enough names? David Leslie, Johnson, McGoldrick, all four of them, will write the King of not really, will write the King of Atlantis' next solo adventure, although there's no word on whether or not Will Beall will return. We're also awaiting confirmation that Wan will sit in the director's chair again. He is expected to produce the movie alongside Peter Safran. So one of the original writers is going to pen the script. That sounds good. We kind of want to have some consistency there. Deadline's report also, this is interesting, also reveals some intriguing new details about the Trench spinoff. We talked about that last week. Check out that video if you want to hear about the Trench movie that we heard about. New details about the Trench spinoff were announced over the weekend, and it seems that the movie will feature both Jason Momoa and Amber Heard. While the focus will be placed on the Beast, who is new in DC Comics mythology, attacking our aquatic heroes. As expected, the project is being developed with a horror slant in mind. So this is interesting. I guess it's not going to be considered another Aquaman movie. That is going to be separate, but Aquaman and Mera are going to be involved. I think this is just sort of, you know, something that it was commonly referred to pipe dreaming. You know, they just sit down, look at all their numbers and say, gee, Aquaman did really well. It's a $1 billion maker. First $1 billion maker for the DCEU. They sit down, they smoke a pipe, and they say, what can we do to make that into our big franchise success? And they start thinking, well, why not make, well, let's make the sequel. We know that. Let's make a movie about the Trench. Let's put the Trench in it and make Aquaman fight the Trench. And then after that, we'll have, you know, the second cousin of the second cousin of Orm be, you know, it spitballs into like crazy things because and they just like can't keep it to themselves. They get excited about this and they're like, yeah, we're going to make a movie about the Trench. I don't know. We don't really need all this. Let's just worry about the sequel. And after we're worried about the sequel, how about this? This is crazy. This is crazy, but bear with me. This might be like way out of the box and I'm out of line. And if I am, let me know in the comments below. But how about we put Aquaman in another Justice League movie? Are you kidding me? What an idea that is. I can't believe nobody's thought of that before. But maybe if we put Aquaman like into a fully formed Justice League movie where it's, you know, helmed by the same writer, the same director from beginning to end, maybe that would be boss. Just saying, maybe that might be a way to go. Because you got a great stable of characters, and most of them are stable. I mean, it's difficult at this point because we don't know what's going to happen with the Batman. Because apparently they're saying the Batman is going to, you know, obviously it's not going to have Ben Affleck, but apparently it's going to have a young Batman. So I don't know how they're going to take that young Batman and try to plug him into a Justice League film. I think they don't know either, and that's the reason why they're also being standoffish about interconnectivity and doing another, you know, Justice League film or team up film or The Flash, which was supposedly going to involve other heroes such as, at one point it was going to be just Cyborg, but then it became maybe Wonder Woman and Aquaman, maybe Wonder Woman and Batman. It was very all over the place. And, you know, I just say, look, focus on doing Aquaman 2. Then after that, let's see if we can get Justice League 2 off the ground. By then, we will hopefully have had another Batman actor that we can sort of, you know, it's happened before. We had the Hulk, the Incredible Hulk, and then we put in a new actor in the Avengers. It happens. You just move on. So we get a good Batman actor, we plug him into Justice League, we bring back Henry Cavill, or if he decides to pass or whatever happens, we get another Superman actor and get us back with the Justice League. Because it's pretty cool. I don't know if there's any real news about Henry Cavill, but from what I understand, it's still, nothing has changed. I know I heard rumblings about this. I didn't really make this as a topic, but apparently Henry Cavill may indeed have filmed a cameo for Shazam, which may or may not be in the movie, because if they can't resolve their issues and come up with a contract, they're going to use apparently a body double and just see Superman from the back or from a distance or some such nonsense. If it comes to that, I would just say, like, just don't put Superman in the movie. I mean, you can say that Superman inspired Billy without having him in the movie. And then when we do a Superman 2 or Man of Steel 2 or whatever, or when we do Shazam 2 and all the contract crap is settled, then put Cavill in a cameo. Do it then. You don't have to do it in this movie if it won't fit, because that just makes things more complicated and difficult to understand. All right, so let me know what you think about the Trench spin-off and about the potential Aquaman 2. Sounds interesting. I don't know. I don't know about a Trench movie. I think that's just pipe dreaming. Okay, so we move on. And as we move on, we're going to talk about the Dark Phoenix for just a moment. Let's see. Olivia Munn has come out and announced formally that she is not playing Psylocke in Dark Phoenix. She was quoted as saying, "I was filming Predator at the time, so there wasn't time for me to film it, and so I'm not in it." I will tell you guys, let's see. I can't say anything because last time I said a little bit, they sent me a note, but I'm not in it, she affirmed. Okay, so it says here in the story, it says it sounds like it boils down to Fox reprimanding her for mentioning in a past interview that they may have been considering releasing Dark Phoenix as a two-part movie. So this is kind of interesting because had Dark Phoenix been a two-part movie, I think it probably would have fared better. I think what really happened with this film, and it's sad because we all wanted, we allegedly anyway wanted the Fox X-Men universe to be folded in to the MCU. But unfortunately, it kind of the fact that Fox was bought by Disney kind of put this film in the lurch. And we don't really know exactly what's going to happen with it now. Is it going to be released? Is it going to be a two-parter? Probably not. So it's very difficult. Like, I don't even know really at this point that I want. Well, because the MCU hasn't been that great with some of its characters it's gotten from other studios. Spider-Man, I think, has been a disaster, an unmitigated disaster. The Incredible Hulk, they can't do a Hulk movie, a solo movie, because they would have to pay Universal, not necessarily for the rights, but for the distribution rights, which means if it's complicated, but if you send the movie out to theaters, it would be under the Universal's banner, not under the Disney banner, even though Disney made it. So Universal takes their cut, and that's why they never made a Disney Hulk movie. We only got the one prior to the sale to Disney of Marvel. So this is what I mean. It's kind of, if we do get an X-Men universe now out of, Fox's X-Men, if they're out, they're going to change everything. And I'm not sure that, because like I said, if that's a good idea, because like I said, the problem with uh, criticizing Fox is they actually got it right more often than not. I would say most of the X-Men films were really good. I mean, everybody loves, X1, X2. I like X3. I don't know why people don't like it as much as me, but all right. First Class, a lot of people like it more than me. I don't hate it, but it was just I liked the origin of Xavier and Magneto, and that was when it was at its best. Then it kind of got played out in all subsequent movies. That's the best thing I can say about it. Days of Future Past, I think, a phenomenal movie. And then we got Apocalypse, which wasn't that great, and then we got the solo Wolverine movies, which were varying degrees of successful. So that's what I'm saying. You hand it over to Marvel now, and they're gonna do what they did to Spider-Man. They're not going to want to do anything that Sony did, which means we're not going to have the love interest with, Mary Jane and Gwen. Now we've got MJ because we can't redo that. We can't have Ben Parker mentioned because that was a big part of the Raimi films. And, it's just, I kind of fear for what Marvel's going to do, or Disney Marvel is going to do with the X-Men. When Fox got it right, at least I would say 75% of the time. So that's not even talking about Deadpool, which I don't see Deadpool really as an X-Men movie, but then again, I don't see Wolverine's movies as X-Men movies. They're standalone movies. I mean, I think arguably maybe Logan. I don't know. I would say arguably maybe X-Men Origins was, because that was like supposedly made to fit in between. Well, I don't know in between, but it was supposed to like fit before the first X-Men. It was originally designed as a prequel. It wasn't really designed as a standalone movie like the Wolverine or like whatever. But I don't know. I don't know. We'll see. By the way, and I have to mention this, I will have all the respect in the world for Olivia Munn for wearing that costume. We're going to get into the Captain Marvel dilemma in a moment. But this, again, I'll just use this as a segue because I was going to save that for the last story of the day. But what's Captain Marvel movie is going to be coming out pretty soon. Now, take a look at Psylocke, as portrayed by Olivia Munn. She insisted on this costume to make it comic accurate. She asked for the bathing suit style, she asked for the sash, she asked for the thigh boots, and she wanted to look like Psylocke from the X-Men comics. Now, apparently, obviously the thong was optional because in the 90s they kind of went a little cuckoo with the costuming. That's understandable. But there is nothing wrong, intrinsically wrong, with this costume. It looks like a superhero costume. You know who else wore a costume like this and it wasn't an affront to the mothers of America? Linda Carter. Linda Carter's Wonder Woman wore the bathing suit style costume from the comic, completely accurate to the comic, and the mothers of America were fine with this. And the children of America were not scarred by this. And Wonder Woman was still the hero of millions. Wonder Woman was still an icon and inspiration to little girls everywhere. Because Wonder Woman was always sort of the little girl's superhero. Little boys, of course, also looked up to Wonder Woman. Um, but you're looking for representation. You're looking for a female superhero for kids to look up to, for young girls to look up to. Wonder Woman was always there, and Wonder Woman was always a positive image for little girls, despite wearing quote unquote a bathing suit for a costume. Uh, I'll go so far as to say let's take a look at Gal Gadot in her costume. No, of course I didn't pull that one up. I didn't get an image up of that. All right, well, let's take a look at the story here we've got of Captain Marvel. Captain Marvel in the new and improved costume, which is, yes, yet again, another generic cat suit, just like Black Widow, just like any other, like the X-Men and the Fox X-Men movies, like Matrix or whatever. They all wear the same unitard, like one piece. And so some news came out that, in case anybody had any doubts, in case there were any fears out there by any feminists whatsoever, Captain Marvel is not going to wear the Ms. Marvel costume, the famous black costume that looks reminiscent, actually, of Olivia Munn's Psylocke costume, with the sash and the thigh boots and so on and so forth. Kevin Feige was quoted as saying, "If you look at the comics, the further you go back, the less clothes Carol Danvers seems to be wearing. Oftentimes, it's a one-piece bathing suit, basically, with outrageous comic proportions. Bree pointed to it on the wall, and we went, yeah, just so you know, that's not what we're doing." She goes, "Okay, I didn't think so, but I'm glad you said that." So, again, Brie Larson was not going to wear the comic accurate Ms. Marvel suit because, as we can see by this picture on the left here, she's obviously the most modest woman on the planet, right? And that would be, think of the children. The children, what are the children going to say if she's wearing a comic accurate costume, a black costume, and, that we've seen with boots like Wonder Woman and Olivia Munn's Psylocke. Just think. Well, we obviously know she's not that modest if she's willing to be doing these. I don't know if they're lingerie shots or whatever, these lingerie shoots, but she obviously didn't want to do the movie. She's going to do a comic accurate Ms. Marvel costume. And again, like I said, I'm not just trying to be flippant about this. I'm one of the biggest opponents of pornography. I don't believe in objectifying women. I don't believe that pornography is healthy or should be legal and accessible. But we're not talking about pornography. Kids are not going to be contaminated and tainted and somehow grow up to be misogynists or whatever by seeing Captain Marvel in the Ms. Marvel traditional costume. So again, this is where I'm outraged. I mean, others are outraged about the whole project, the whole SJW leanings that this film seems to have, uh, with Brie Larson being pretty out there as an SJW feminist, with the movie going rah rah girl power to the nth degree, and that, you know, it is what it is. You know, if you want to make this cheering section for female empowerment, we already got the Black Panther last year, and I survived that, and you know, the black empowerment message didn't, you know, drive me up a wall. I mean, so I don't really worry too much about the content of the movie. If the movie stinks, I'll come back to you here with a review in a month's time, say the movie stinks. But I just resent when they want to change things. They want to change things in the movie. Now, you know, Ms. Marvel, the Carol Danvers Ms. Marvel, was always a bit of a feminist in the comics. She was created to be the feminist superhero. So to try to pretend like they're going to completely strip every feminist tendency from Ms. Marvel or Carol Danvers in this movie is, you know, whistling in the dark. You know what I mean? It's not going to happen. The character was originally created as such. So, you know, we have that. We have that back in the 70s with the creation of Ms. Marvel. Feminism was different then. It was okay to be wearing those kind of costumes and SJWs wouldn't be all over you. It was okay to show that she was a powerful woman that was making it, quote unquote, in a man's world, in a career as a military officer and climbing the ranks and so on and so forth. It was a different time where it wasn't as antagonistic as it is now. And so I think if this movie was made in the 70s, you would probably still get very much what we're going to get in 2019. I think the only thing is you're going to have the buzzwords, you know, the virtual signaling moments that, you know, are going to stand out like a sore thumb rather than just the sort of plain and simple truths of she had to make it on her own in a man's world and it was difficult until she hit the big time and all that stuff. All right, so we're not through with Captain Marvel here yet. We got, this is pretty interesting. It's like 3 weeks before it comes out. I'm looking forward to it. I'm hoping it's going to be good. I don't know if it's going to be good. Like I said, I don't have a crystal ball. I can just go by what I see in the trailers and stuff. And like I said, it doesn't look all that exciting from what they've shown. It looks like it's going to be part like Treachy, you know, feminist platitudes, and it's going to be part road movie, buddy movie with Nick Fury. I don't want to see a buddy movie with Nick Fury. I mean, this is before Nick Fury was cool, it seems like. You know what I mean? It's different now, or you know, with the modern MCU from the Winter Soldier and the Avengers and stuff. That Nick Fury is cool. Um I don't know. This is like the pre this is the pre eye patch Nick Fury, and we're going to see how he gets the eye patch probably, and it's going to be pretty exciting. But I don't know that that's a story that I'm begging to be told, especially with the return of Phil Coulson. That's kind of the incentive to really to see it, but we're not through there. All right, so we also have. Let me find my notes. Let's see. Brie Larson was also quoted as saying, let's see. My dream would be that Ms. Marvel gets to come into play when speaking about if the movie gets a sequel. A few months ago, Kevin Feige also said that Ms. Marvel being brought to the big screen is definitely sort of in the works. So they're already laying the groundwork for Ms. Marvel, which is now a completely different character in the comics. She's a Muslim teenager, I believe, that has the most ridiculous power set of all, from what I can gather. All she does is make her hands big. She can make very big fists like Mr. Fantastic. But from what I understand, I don't know. I haven't really read a comic, but she can, I guess, have stretchy powers with her arms. I don't know if she has any other powers, but it seems like the most ridiculous character of all. I'm not saying they couldn't, sort of rework the character and make it work, but I, I, I don't see it. I don't see it, and I hope they don't try to go there. I mean, it's possible to just do the shout out and try to spin it off into something like for kids on television, but I don't see Ms. Marvel working on the big screen. I don't think anybody's going to go to see that. A lot of people don't even want to go see this. I honestly don't see them going to see a Ms. Marvel, a Kamala Khan version. I don't know. But also, this kind of comes as an interesting thing because this would Ms. Marvel, they're kind of bypassing Monica Rambeau, who was the first female Captain Marvel in the comics. Now I know about her because she was the Captain Marvel when I was a kid in the 80s. I always called her the Gladys Knight Captain Marvel as a kid. I always thought she looked like Gladys Knight. I don't know. I don't make no apologies. But because she wore this like spangly costume. It kind of reminded me of like a dress that Gladys Knight would wear. I don't know why. And she kind of had her hair permed in what at that time I guess Gladys Knight wore her hair like that. But I mean, if you talk to me as a 6 year old in the mid '80s or something, I would say, yeah, that was Gladys Knight Marvel. But apparently they're going to try to bring her in as well because her mother, Maria Rambeau, is in this film as a co-pilot of Carol. So it's going to be interesting to see just what they try to do with all these characters in the spin-offs. They got it set up where they could probably give Monica Rambeau the mantle to bequeath it to her. I don't think they're going to do that. They're probably going to make her whatever name she adopted. I can't remember what it was, Photon, or because Captain Marvel, Carol Danvers herself, she had about 4 or 5 different monikers in her comic career. So I don't know which one is hers and which one is Monica Rambeau's, but there was Photon, Captain Marvel, Ms. Marvel. I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do, but it should be interesting. So let me know what you think in the comments below. Do you think this is something pretty ridiculous, like I said, that they are afraid to do the comic accurate costume for Brie Larson? Is Brie Larson somehow puritanical and thinks that wearing that kind of costume would be an affront to viewers and little girls everywhere? Let me know what you think in the comments below. And do you think that the ridiculousness that is Ms. Marvel should never grace the big screen? Okay. All right, notes are ready. We got our next story up here, and we're going to continue in that same vein. We're going to be talking about comics purity, something near and dear to my heart, comics purity. And Michael B. Jordan has been up for, or it has been rumored that he's been up for the role of Superman should the WB execs part ways with Henry Cavill. Now, he's spoken out about this and is talking about would he accept the role as Superman if asked. On Oprah Winfrey's talk show, he was quoted as saying, "Yeah, that's a rumor. I heard that. I think just to be in those conversations, it's flattering." When Oprah asked him, would he like to be Superman, he responded, "It's tough. I hate being a businessman and understanding both sides of the situation. I think there's a huge upside to it, but just being under that microscope and being picked apart and compared to so many different versions of Superman, I would rather do something original." Jordan also said he'd be game to play the recent creation of Grant Morrison, Calvin Ellis, the Black Superman of Parallel Reality Earth 23. He was quoted as saying, "Purists will accept that more than me being Clark Kent." So, the round of applause for Michael B. Jordan. He has just redeemed himself in my eyes because I think many of us who are purists still have it in the back of our mind that he played the Human Torch, Johnny Storm, which again, I don't I don't begrudge him that he took that role because any up and coming actor would have wanted to play that role. That's fine. But when he had that cavalier attitude when he said they'll go see it anyway. And it came to pass that nobody went and saw it because it looked horrible, because it looked like it had nothing to do with the comic incarnation of Fantastic Four. But we see now that he has grown and his understanding of these things has grown. He did mention also, because I watched the video, I'm just reading the notes, but I watched the video and he did say he was a comic fan. So he understands these things. He doesn't need to be so cavalier about it and say, well, they'll see it anyway. He knows this is important to fans. We want the characters to look the way they look. I don't want Eric Killmonger played by a white guy. You know, it's just because a lot of people, and I made a video about this, and you can check out that video, the folly of race changing characters. You can look it up. It's just a short video. It's only 5 minutes, and I explain the whole situation. But the fact is, no matter how good or bad an actor you are, you can't take an established character and make them something different than what they were when they were established. And you know, if it's a black character, you can't put in a white actor. If it's a Asian character, you can't put in a black actor. If it's a Latino character, you can't put in a white actor. It doesn't work that way because that's the way the character was designed. Now you can say it's happened on both sides. A lot of people bring up Bane was not played by a Latino actor, which I fully agree and understand. My thing about that was Tom Hardy did play him with some kind of vague ethnicity, which was it could have been somehow Latin based from some kind of Latin country. At least that's what I was thinking. They didn't pick an actor that was Latino, but at the same time, his face is covered for 99% of that movie. I think there was just like basically a 25-second scene with him without a mask on. Um, that doesn't really excuse it, but that to say that that's like the maybe one time that it's happened. Well, on the other hand, I guess Ra's al Ghul being played by Liam Neeson was also another situation. But so yeah, it does happen on both sides, and you know, it's not something that anybody that's a purist wants to see happen. Michael B. Jordan understands that. I would be totally, completely, and 100% on board with him playing Calvin Ellis, the Black Superman from Earth 23, because that Superman is black. I do not want to cast Henry Cavill as Calvin Ellis. That's kind of like me saying I want to cast Tom Holland as Miles Morales. It doesn't work that way. You don't want these characters to not look like their comic incarnations. And I just wanted to take the moment to applaud Michael B. Jordan for this. And, you know, he understands it. Hopefully the internet mentality would understand it. And I'm really looking forward to it. You know, seeing what he does in his career. If he gets to play Calvin Ellis, that would be great. If he goes back to playing Eric Killmonger again, we had a poll about that. A lot of people are saying they don't think he should return. It could be interesting. Maybe, like I said in a previous video, maybe just have him back as a flashback or sort of like a spirit world character. But yeah, it's pretty interesting. All right, so let us move on now. We've got some television news before we wrap up. I think we'll save the Harley Quinn news for the end. All right, some television news. There was a teaser trailer out. By the way, I didn't see the teaser trailer for Doom Patrol, so I'm not commenting on it this week. But that show's going to be on pretty soon, and the problem is I don't have DC Universal, at least not yet. I do intend at some point in getting it. I still haven't gotten Netflix to watch Daredevil Season 3, and I was tempted to try to watch some of Punisher Seasons 1 or 2. I think your boy Zach had the best idea with Punisher, which is, at least I remember hearing him say this about Season 2, which is basically watch the first 2 episodes, and then watch the last 4 episodes or something like that. Because that's the way you have to watch Netflix shows. Everything in the inside is just all dull and basically padding. But we are going to talk about the Cloak and Dagger teaser. Not very long, not a very long teaser. Let's see. Marvel's Cloak and Dagger Season 2 will debut with a 2-hour premiere. That's 2 hours. April 4th at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The second season will consist of 10 episodes. The footage continued the tease of Mayhem arriving in season 2, something that has been heavily featured in all marketing so far. Mayhem, of course, refers to Detective O'Reilly, who was transformed into the fan favorite comics anti-hero after being killed and revived by Dark Force Matter in the season 1 finale. So yeah, that they left it on a pretty interesting cliffhanger. I still say that this show, I did not get it. I liked parts of it. Excuse me. But I don't know where they were going for most of this. They spent a lot of time with the two characters apart, Cloak and Dagger, which I guess maybe they were trying to build up for the sequel. Dagger was kind of a drag with her sort of dysfunctional family. Cloak, on the other hand, had a healthy family, but then again, not a very supportive family. I don't know. I just wish they would go from the teen angst into some super heroics. Maybe they'll do that now with Mayhem. We get to see her briefly in the trailer, and we get to see her again in her normal state. So, yeah, you looking forward to this? Like I said, I don't know. I mean, I'll watch it because I watched the first season. I don't know how excited I am about it, but we'll see. Let me know in the comments below if you are excited about season 2 of Cloak and Dagger coming up in April. So I'm guessing that show is probably 90% shot at this point. All right, let's see. Moving on now, we are going to talk about The Gifted, which will also be wrapping up their season very soon. Let's see. The Gifted showrunner Matt Nix admitted that there's an air of uncertainty around his production while addressing the crowd at the winter TCAs. He was quoted as saying, "I guess the bottom line is, and I can speak for everyone who works on the show, we'd love to do it again." Let's see. In conversations I've had with my writers, everybody feels the same way, which is nobody would want to come back to terms that made it impossible to do a good show. And frankly, we wouldn't say yes to that. But the reality is that shows evolve. I think that my sense is that the most likely thing is that if we come back, we'll come back in some sort of creative way, some partnership, because I think that's what we've discovered is that fans of The Gifted are big fans of The Gifted. We have a solid fan base. And it's a little small for the broadcast networks, but we do well on streaming, so there may be, my hope is that there's something to work out in that realm. So, just as an aside here, apparently he thinks that it's not gonna exist on Fox. It might exist in a streaming form, on a streaming network. That might be the case. Let me finish up here. I don't anticipate a 22 episode season on broadcast, but I'd love to be wrong. Yeah, that's basically what I said. I don't think he expects the show to be back, and certainly not with a full 22 episode season, which they've only gotten 10 to 13 episodes, I think, this past 2 seasons. The 13 episode first season of The Gifted debuted on Fox back in October 2017. A 15 episode second season premiered September 2018, and will conclude on February 19th, 2019, which is next Tuesday, this upcoming Tuesday. Fans of The Gifted likely won't have to wait long to discover whether the February 19th episode was a season or series finale. So again, just to touch briefly on The Gifted, I think it's a great show. I've been enjoying it. It's been getting better and better every week. They had 1 or 2 episodes that were kind of fillerish and, just okay, but it's been a pretty strong season, and I'm looking forward to a season 3. I've been saying that on Twitter. I don't know exactly where the show will wind up. I would hope that maybe they make it on FX. Legion was on FX, and they still managed 3 seasons. If not, I would love for them to be able to at least wrap it up the way Gotham was given the opportunity to wrap it up, the way Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. continues to, evolve and continue on. Like they said, it would be nice to see some permutation of this continue. I don't know how they're expecting to evolve it, Also in his notes, I didn't have time to read this whole thing, but he does suggest that season 3 would involve some kind of Days of Future Past storyline. So that again would also be very exciting if they could build on that. We'll see. We'll see. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Are you a fan of The Gifted? Would you be happy to see it return in any capacity? Would you like to see it return as a Netflix show, Hulu show, whatever show will pick it up show? Let me know in the comments below. Speaking of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., also briefly, I've got some notes about that. So let's check that out. Let's see. Elizabeth Henstridge teased that the 6th season will be unlike anything we have seen before, saying this season is a departure from other stuff we've done. And let's see, the showrunner, I only got half of this quote here, but about a year into the team dropping a Terminal Coulson off in Tahiti. So the show's going to pick up about a year in advance, which makes sense because not only did they leave us with that cliffhanger probably over a year ago now, but they also have to deal with the Thanos snap. And if life continued on for 6 months and they're not going to touch the Thanos snap, they can at least reference it on a newspaper or something that, whatever, a month went by with a Thanos snap or something, you know, just whatever it is, it'll be able to be in the distant past and they won't have to address it. Also, the show has been bumped up to May, so it's going to be debuting a little earlier. And I think it was originally scheduled for July, but the show will now be airing in May, so that is pretty exciting. I guess they're going to try to get some May sweeps action going on in there. But yeah, we talked about this last week, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. from the trailer. If you want to check out more information about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 6, check out the last video we did, and it is very exciting. All right, so we will continue on here with yet another TV dinner. We got some info about Loki, the series. The Loki series has landed a showrunner in the form of Rick and Morty's Michael Waldron. He will write the pilot for Marvel Studios as well as serving as showrunner and executive producer. According to reports, Tom Hiddleston will star in the show, and Hollywood reported, because there's been suggestions that he'll only be narrating it, but he will be acting in it. He will not be Loki will not be portrayed by a child or whatever was the rumor. The Hollywood Reporter adds that the show will follow Loki as the trickster and shapeshifter pops up throughout human history as an unlikely influencer on historical events. This, to me, does not sound very exciting, to be honest with you, because how are you going to, what are you going to do? I don't understand it. You're going to say that, you know, Loki showed up and created Custer's Last Stand. You know what I mean? I don't get this. You're going to say Loki showed up and he got the Declaration of Independence signed. I mean, I don't know. Is he going to do something good? Is he going to do something bad? I don't really know what exactly this portends. It is kind of strange. It is kind of weird, rather than just giving us sort of an adventure, you know, put him off with the Warriors 3. That's what I would have liked to have seen. Maybe even make it a prequel before all the events of the first Thor. I don't know. Something about this doesn't sound quite right. It doesn't sound kosher to me. Well, let me know what you think in the comments below. Are you looking forward to this Thor series? Which, don't get me wrong, I'm mostly looking forward to seeing Tom Hiddleston back because he's great in that role. But I don't know. Doesn't sound like the most promising setup or storyline they could be following. All right, we have some some news about episode 9. Not a whole lot. They're keeping it very close to the chest. We had a tweet from J.J. Abrams. J.J. Abrams has tweeted out this final picture on the last day of shooting, wrapping photography on episode 9, and his tweet was quoted. It feels impossible, but today wrapped photography on episode 9. There is no adequate way to thank this truly magical crew and cast. I'm forever indebted to you all. And there is a image here of the 3 principal actors, the 3 main stars of the show. We've got a very emotional looking Oscar Isaac. He looks like he's, really taken by this moment. Daisy Ridley kind of just looks like she's just happy that it's all over. She's like, yeah, that's great. And John Boyega, yeah, boy. John, yeah, Boyega looks like he's looking at the craft service cart and he's just like, can I get myself some tea? Can I get myself some tea over there? And can you give me some crumpets while you're at it? But but I don't know, I'd like to think that this episode 9 will redeem this sequel trilogy. I think it's a tall order. I don't think it's going to be possible. They've just ruined it too much. The Last Jedi was abysmal, an abomination. The Force Awakens was bad. I wouldn't say it was an abomination. I felt after seeing The Force Awakens, they could salvage it. They could possibly do something with it, maybe. But then they did The Last Jedi, which really took it into SJWville. Like I said in my original video, I think the Force Awakens, it left me cold. It didn't really insult me, but it felt like we wasted a movie. We wasted a movie where we were just told, "Look, Han Solo's back." Hey! We never really got the reunion with Luke. We didn't get all 3 of the big 3 on the screen at the same time. We didn't get Billy D. Williams back, which, come on, he deserved. He was in 50% of the original trilogy. He was in 50%. You got to remember, he was in the last half of Empire, and he was in all of Jedi. That, that constitutes him being a full character, a full member of the Star Wars cast, and they're going to put him in the last episode of the sequel trilogy. And what is he going to do now, really? Honestly. It's like just throwing him in at the last moment. It's an insult. And then, of course, the jury's out on what's going to happen with Mark Hamill. Is we know he's back, but is he coming back as a Force ghost? Is he coming back as a flashback? Is he coming back in the flesh? As I've said many times, I think the only way to bring back Luke Skywalker is to have him brought back in the flesh. That's the only way they're going to win back fans of Star Wars that were offended by The Last Jedi. They've got to do it. They've got to do it. If they do a teaser trailer, and they do like they did with the first trailer for The Force Awakens, which was just Luke's narration, and at the end, Harrison Ford, Chewie, we're home. If they just do in this episode, in this teaser trailer, do Luke doing some narration. In the first one he did, The Force is strong in my family, which it turned out to mean nothing, really. All it meant was that his nephew was a psycho. All right. If they maybe have Mark Hamill do, I don't know, maybe the Yoda monologue or something of a Jedi must have the deepest commitment, the most serious mind, something like that. Just have him say a few words that are familiar to Star Wars original trilogy fans. Then end the teaser with him standing there in the Jedi robes in the dark, igniting the green lightsaber. That's it. Boom. Cut. Just a 30-second spot. Maybe not even have to be 30 seconds, but by the time they, they'll show a star field, they'll show a couple of quick cuts, and then so 30 seconds, 25 seconds, gold. You'll have my money. You'll have 90% of the Star Wars fans' money back. As it stands right now, I'm not looking forward to seeing. Look at this. What can we get from this photo? They're back in the desert. Is this Jakku again? I don't know. They might be doing something like Return of the Jedi where they want to go back to where it all started. Now they're going back to Jakku. Let's say she's got some kind of staff in her hand, sort of like the original film where she was armed with a staff. They're wearing almost the same costumes. I mean, she's wearing basically the same costume. It looks like. I think maybe the 2 lads are wearing something a little different. But yeah, there you go. There you have it. Episode 9, Plan 9. And the only thing I can say is now that the original, these three movies in the sequel trilogy, now that they're over, the sequel trilogy is ended. This will begin to make things right. Maybe we can move on now. Maybe we can. The storm has passed us. Maybe we can just forget that this ever happened. And a lot of people did it with the Phantom Menace. But maybe if we can I think there was a guy that did it. Get a talented editor that can cut up The Force Awakens, The Last Jedi, and Episode 9, whatever it'll be called. Make maybe a 3-hour movie out of that whole thing, getting rid of like maybe 60% of the movies, and maybe we'll have something usable that we could say, yeah, that's kind of what we'll consider canon. Otherwise, they probably will just have to just admit that this was a turd and just move on and hopefully give us the Obi-Wan movie, a decent Boba Fett movie, just give us something like that. I would be happy with maybe even just a, you know, I don't want to say recast, but if they do like the post Return of the Jedi adventures with other actors, that's kind of the only way you can do it now. Maybe frame it as a flashback, so that way you could have Mark Hamill involved again, and just have like Mark Hamill, circa before Ben Solo fell to the dark side, and have him just sit there and recount some kind of adventures, and then we'll have a series of solo films of young Han, Luke, and Leia and their battles after Return of the Jedi to establish a new republic. That could be a way to go. I don't know. Apart from that, I think we're done. We're pretty much done. Aren't we done? Are you done? Let me know. If you're done, let me know in the comments below. All right, we got our final story of the night here. We went a little long, as usual. Well, we talked a little bit at the beginning of the night here. First up, let's take a look at some more photos from Birds of Prey. We've got our first look at the Huntress. This is Mary Elizabeth Winstead, I believe. I don't have any notes for this. I just picked these images off of Twitter. But here she is. That is not the costume, of course, but that is probably the best shot we have of her, where you can see her face. On the set of Birds of Prey, last week we took a look at Black Canary, and the week before that we looked at the new shots of Harley Quinn. This is Mary in her... This is Mary in her Huntress costume. They got the bare midriff. They try to pay tribute, I guess, to the original costume. But again, this looks very generic, much like what we're doing with Captain Marvel. It's like, well, we'll throw a bone to the fans and show her belly, and all right, that's cute, but still, she looks nothing like a Huntress. If you put this character in any other television show or movie and didn't tell me who she was playing and said she was playing a superhero, I would have no idea. The only thing that they have to hang their hat on is they give her a crossbow, and like I said, maybe the bare midriff is supposed to be a sort of a sop to fans, but really, I wouldn't know who she was playing if I was just told she's playing a DC heroine. So there you have it. We got one more shot here. Let me take a look. Let's see an image of her from the back, where she's got sort of a chain wrapped around her. I'm not exactly sure where that fits in. She's got a hood. She looks like she'd fit in on CW's Arrow, although to be honest with you, CW's Arrow had a more interesting looking costume, with a mask and, the generic catsuit. But again, let me know what you think. We've seen all the three protagonists' costumes now at this point. Harley Quinn, Black Canary, and Huntress. And in all three cases, well, Harley Quinn, I think this costume, this looks okay. I think the coat, the tattered coat or whatever that is kind of cumbersome. I can't see her wearing that through the whole movie. But the rest of this looks kind of Harley Quinn-ish, kind of, bizarre, with a kind of, in the comics you see her often with the suspenders and kind of, tank top thing, whatever that is, and shorts. So that kind of looks to me like Harley Quinn. But I don't know. All right, so we have some information here about, it's been going back and forth. It's been touch and go, if you will, as to whether Harley Quinn will be in Suicide Squad 2. Again, a moment for a little H2O. And originally, a story broke that earlier in the week that she would not be in Suicide Squad 2. Margot Robbie would not be reprising the role of Harley Quinn in Suicide Squad 2. The scuttlebutt was that James Gunn, who is now writing and directing the film Suicide Squad 2, was not going to use much of the principal original cast, which I took to mean that they were only going to use Amanda Waller. And possibly someone like Captain Boomerang or Killer Croc to sort of pad out the cast. Maybe they would throw in one or two of the old guard, but because most of those characters, I don't know. I mean, you really, Harley Quinn doesn't really need to go back to Suicide Squad because she was broken out of that program, and bringing her back seems kind of redundant. Doesn't make much sense. Other characters like Katana, I can see her moving on. She really didn't have a big part to play in that film that was necessary to begin with. What's the name of the guy there? Colonel Flag. He and Enchantress could very easily have lived happily ever after. Like I said, that kind of leaves us with Deadshot, which I don't know if Will Smith is really big on coming back. I don't know. I think he kind of would just as soon be done with it. I don't know. So, because they're trying to say maybe there'd be a Deadshot movie, but I don't know. That leaves, like I said, other characters. Diablo is dead. Duh. I mean, spoiler alert, but kind of leaves just Captain Boomerang and Killer Croc. And if they kind of want to pad out the cast, I could see them bringing them back. I would probably, like I said, maybe bank on Captain Boomerang, if anything, because Captain Boomerang was the comedy relief character. And with Killer Croc, I don't necessarily think that he's up for a role in the Batman, although we hear that there's going to be multiple villains. If he is in the Batman, they might want to take him out of this. And that's a lot of work anyway to put the prosthetics on. I can't remember the actor's name. I can't pronounce the actor's name, but I know. So anyway, that's the way I'm seeing it. But so the news report now is that Harley Quinn is in. Margot Robbie is in. Let's see. The story originally claimed that Margot Robbie was not expected to reprise her role as Harley Quinn in James Gunn's Suicide Squad 2, and suggested that her future, this is garbage tier, by the way, it just says Suicide Squad, but it's really Suicide Squad 2, and suggested that her future in the DC Films universe was murky at best. Completely untrue. They were talking about making her have a trilogy of films, which, well, we'll get to that in a second. That was always subject to change based on the success or failure of Kathy Yen's upcoming Birds of Prey and the fantabulous emancipation of one Harley Quinn. However, following the extensive report, Forbes has now been able to obtain more information from their sources and have provided a promising update, which now reveals that Harley Quinn is indeed expected to return in the Gunn-directed sequel, seemingly suggesting that she is currently part of the most recent draft of Gunn's script. They've also learned that production on the sequel will begin a lot sooner than anticipated. I've learned from sources close to the production that, in fact, the information about Harley Quinn being absent from the new Suicide Squad movie is no longer up to date. She's indeed expected to appear in James Gunn's Suicide Squad 2, which is expected to begin production later this year. While the exact production start date wasn't given, it seems probable that it'll begin filming during the second half of the year once Robbie wraps Birds of Prey, as it prepares for its August 6th, 2021 release date. So this is kind of interesting. I don't really get what's taking them so long to pull the trigger on these Harley Quinn movies, because a Suicide Squad 2 came out what? That was 2016, I believe. Was it 2016 or 17? I'm pretty sure it was 2016. Now here we are 3 years later, and she's finally starting to film another Harley Quinn film, which is not going to be out for 2 years. And then she's going to go back to back, basically filming, I think, back to back. I don't know if she'll have time for another movie in the middle, but then Margot Robbie's going to jump from the fantabulous and emancipation of Harley Quinn to Suicide Squad 2. And then not only that, but we also have, we'll get to that now, but we have rumors that she's going to be in a trilogy, which, again, I don't really understand what that means in this case, a trilogy. It's not a trilogy of solo films. It's going to be Birds of Prey, Gotham City Sirens, and then what? A solo movie? I don't know. It's not very clear. Okay, the original report was that the Joker versus Harley Quinn movie and Jared Leto's spin-off Joker movie have been scrapped by Warner Brothers. Dun dun dun. Now, this is disappointing to me because I'll tell you what. I believe quite seriously, yeah, there it is right there, the release date, 2016. Yeah, why are they waiting so long to get Harley back on the screen? I mean, she's the only thing they really got going for them until Aquaman came out. Of course, Wonder Woman, but Wonder Woman is getting her sequel. They didn't take half as long greenlighting Wonder Woman 2. So my problem has always been, and I said this the past 2 times we've talked about the Harley Quinn movies, which is you can't jump straight from Harley Quinn and Joker being lovebirds, and then all of a sudden they're on the outs in this new film. You also really can't base all of the Harley Quinn stuff on her apart from Joker. Harley Quinn started as a supporting Joker character. If you're going to use Harley Quinn to her potential, her full potential, you have to start her off with a Joker. They did not. They ended up sort of sandwiching Joker into a movie where she was slated to play a big part. And they are conveniently writing him out halfway, through this whole trilogy thing here, whatever it's going to be. The first episode of introduction to Harley Quinn, he is a semi-factor. Second film with Harley Quinn, he's a non-factor. That is not the way you build up the character. What should have happened is all right, so we'll introduce Harley in Suicide Squad, see how the reaction is. Then we do the Joker and Harley movie where it's sort of a Bonnie and Clyde, or a lot of people were touch and go about, so a lot of people didn't like the idea that they were portrayed as a healthy couple. A lot of people wanted it to be more dysfunctional, but you got to remember, in the original incarnation in Batman the Animated Series, it was really a non-relationship. It wasn't so much that it was an abusive relationship in that original incarnation as it was a non-relationship. The only time the Joker really physically abused her, I think, was in Mad Love when he, backhanded her out a window. And that was when people sort of gasped and finally said, wow, the Joker doesn't really think much of Harley, does he? But to be honest, they really could have played it up in any number of many ways. And from what it looks like here in this report, it was Joker versus Harley. Even if they did that, it would make more sense of there being a reason why Harley and Joker are on the outs going forward. So like I said, they should have had Joker and Harley together for at least 3 movies. Suicide Squad maybe would be the way to do it. A Joker and Harley movie. I don't know. You need to have Batman at some point. We did have Batman interact with Harley in the Suicide Squad, but see, this is where everything is just bleep backwards. And then you would have, after the Batman confrontation with Joker and Harley in a trilogy, then you can spin Harley off into another trilogy where she would be the focus. And you can have sort of the goofy things of Harley's Holiday and Harley and Ivy and just crazy things like that. But you should start her off as she was intended, as the Joker's sidekick, and not just completely cut her off from him. Now, the Joker is the Jared Leto Joker was not very popular. And I feel bad for Jared Leto because I don't think he was horrible, but I think part of it was in the writing. The writing was not doing him any favors. But if they could just sort of settle on a version of the Joker and give it to him, I think it could have been pretty successful, if they just didn't do this sort of tatted up, you know, gangster. They should have gone with a more traditional Joker, the way it kind of looks like they're going with Joaquin Phoenix. All right, so anyhow, it says here in the, let me see if I can finish reading this. It appears that Leto has moved on from playing the role after being cast in Morbius the Living Vampire. Forbes provide an extensive report on the current status and bright future of the DC films, and while some of what their story revealed wasn't particularly surprising, such as the Leto Joker projects being scrapped, they did. Then it goes into what we already talked about. Okay, so yeah, there you have it. I don't know. Do you feel bad that Leto's Joker wasn't really given a fair shake in the DCEU? Do you think they should have carried on with him and Harley before sort of spinning Harley off into her own series as her own character, and the emancipation of the fantabulous Harley Quinn? Do you think, like I think that they should have sort of paced themselves and given themselves some time to develop the Joker and Harley relationship before sort of spinning her off as her own character? Let me know in the comments below. And yes, that is about all we have for today, for another week. That was pretty exciting. Let me know in the comments below what you think of this week's news and the Torch News Roundup. Be sure you hit that like button, smash that subscribe button if you haven't. It looks like we got another subscriber. Thank you, thank you, thank you very much. Also follow me on Twitter. Hit that link in the description below for my Twitter page. And of course, check out the Adventures of Bullets Bourbon Private Eye in my website below as well in the description for all the action, excitement, and adventure. And as I said, be safe. Be safe out there. It's never a given that, these wild-eyed extremists aren't going to be coming for you. It just seems to be an unfortunate fact of life when you're, on a certain side of the aisle. So be safe, pray always, be diligent in your prayers. God bless you all, and as always, this is Johnny Torch reminding you once again, keep the flame burning brightly, and I'll be with you again real soon.